All right, good evening and welcome. Today is Tuesday, August 9th, 2022. We are convened as the Provo City School District Board of Education. We are meeting at Dixon Middle School at 750 West, 200 North in Provo, Utah. The time is 7:01 p.m. We will begin with a roll call, and we will begin with Nate.
Nate Bryson, board member.
Terry McCain, board member. Melanie Hall, board president.
Rebecca Nielsen, board vice president. Jennifer Partridge, board member.
Gina Hales, board member.
Derek Anderson, business administrator.
And I need to excuse our superintendent. He was here and he went home ill. So he apologizes for not being here. He was trying really hard to make it through the rest of the evening, but he's not doing well, so I need to excuse him. And also McKay is out of town, McKay Jensen, another board member. Is there a motion to convene?
I move that we convene the business meeting for the public hearing.
All right, we are now in our public meeting. To begin, we're going to have a presentation by our business administrator, Derek Anderson, who hopefully will answer many of your questions that you may have. Afterwards, we're going to have our public input. When we have our public input, it is not an opportunity for the board to interact with you, but it's a time for us to listen to your concerns. If you, at the end of this presentation, your concerns are still not answered, we would ask that you would email the board to Derek Anderson, our business administrator, and then he will forward those to us. His email is dereka@provo.edu. That is DEREKA@provo.edu. So, we'll begin with the presentation.
Okay, thank you. While the slideshow is being pulled up, I'm going to read a statement really quick. So, the Provo City School District Board of Education, in an effort to be more transparent with our community, is providing the following information to explain the current increase in local taxes. There's an inherent tension between providing services and collecting taxes to fund them. Provo City School District has raised taxes for two reasons: building Shoreline Middle School and rebuilding Wasatch Elementary. The second item is increasing wages to retain employees. Below, we have there's a snippet, and this what I'm reading is on our website. You can go read that and see the graphs that are with it. There's a snippet from the certified tax rate system. We are increasing our tax revenue by $12 million, which is $6.7 million is going towards the building of Wasatch and Shoreline, and the remaining $5.3 million is going towards salaries. And those amounts must go towards those items as allocated in Utah certified tax rate system. And then it gives a breakdown of the tax rates and what our revenue was last year to the revenue of the current year. So our budget last year totaled $176 million. The increase of $12 million is a combined increase of all of our funds of 6.8% to our budget from the previous year. So why is this different and everybody is reporting increases of 20 to 30%? That's because all of our revenue that we receive, only a portion of it, which totals 36%, comes from local property taxes. The state has set the funding mechanism for local school districts, and that's why there's not a direct one-to-one correlation between the increase to our budget versus the increase to taxes. When we increase taxes, it only impacts one line in our revenue, the local revenue. That means the local taxpayers carry the majority of the burden if we have to increase our budget beyond what the state or federal government give us. And there's an attached section of all the different revenue line items that we're receiving. There's a table attached that's taken out of the certified tax rate system, and it highlights amounts in gray that our board has the ability to adjust. So while our total budget increased only 6.8% with this piece of funding, it disproportionately affects the local taxpayers because we don't control where all the money comes from, and it only comes from that local item. So Wasatch and Shoreline facilities are currently underway. Those facilities are being replaced because they're 70 and 90 years old respectively, and they're in need of significant renovations and repairs. Those buildings have unreinforced masonry, which means they are not seismically safe, and if there was an earthquake, those buildings have the greatest likelihood of collapse. The unreinforced masonry report by FEMA was released last year. When compared to the neighboring districts, Provo School District is far ahead in replacing our facilities to meet current standards. And after replacing these two final facilities, we will have no facilities that house students that have unreinforced masonry, making Provo one of the safest districts in the state. We are happy, so the board has issued bonds to fund these two projects. We're happy that these construction bonds were issued at the time they were. Had we waited only the year that has occurred from when it was approved to now on this project, that would have been an additional $30 million just in interest payments based on the escalation of interest that we've seen in the market. And so over the next 30 years, what's likely to happen is Provo's tax rates is likely to fall while the surrounding districts will have to continue to bond to replace their facilities to meet the safety needs. So retaining employees, the other item. As employees leave our district, we ask them why. It's commonly stated that in both our district and in other districts, the employees are leaving the industry for better working conditions. Unfortunately, this has been occurring for a long time and has now reached the boiling point. Universities have seen a declining enrollment in their education programs. People are no longer going into education to graduate. That number of graduates now is no longer meeting the demand. The graduates that came out of all of Utah, every university in the state of Utah, could have been hired entirely by Alpine last year. This has created an urgent supply and demand issue, where teacher working conditions, pay, and career outlook cannot keep up with the private market in comparison with other careers. Provo City School District employees are also making less overall in their career lifetime earnings compared to our neighboring districts. There's a table that I'll show later on and on our website that shows that comparison over their career. Consequently, we have reached a critical point where we don't have the necessary people who are interested in educating the children of our community, and this shortage requires us to be competitive with our salaries. Our support personnel are also seeing a significant pressure from the private sector, and people are walking away entirely from the job market. Most of our hourly positions started between $8 and $12 an hour. Our bus drivers start between 19 and 22 and require a CDL. They have to understand how to manage children, be expert drivers to keep children safe. We also have a significant number of openings in our instructional aid, child nutrition, and custodial ranks. In transportation, at the time of this article, we currently did not have enough drivers to start the school year. If we do not get these positions filled, it could cause a significant disruption in our ability to provide services to the community and to the students. We are taking steps to streamline services and be efficient. For example, we have increased the student-to-teacher ratio, which will save us about $2 million this upcoming year. We are changing our health insurance, and next year we hope it will save between $2 and $4 million. We also reinvested the money from the bonds that we issued to try to help offset the rising costs of construction. which we believe we should be able to generate between $1 to $2.5 million on our reinvestment. But even with all of this, we need an increase just to be able to increase wages and try to stay competitive. This increase doesn't make up all the lost ground in 1 year. We entered into a multi-year agreement with our employees to try to make this up over multiple years, just to try to lessen the burden to our taxpayers. Utah has a process for individuals and families that currently do not meet certain income thresholds. And if anyone does not meet those income thresholds, we encourage them to utilize that process to mitigate the tax bill. Utah has multiple options for that, and I'll show you a slide on where you can find those and what they are. And so, can you pull up that presentation now? Or if we need to, I can. What was that? I'll pull it up.
It's on board docs, right?
It's on board docs.
Fine, it's on board docs. Just as a reminder, while she's pulling this up, if you would like to speak to the board after the presentation, there's a paper in the back that you need to fill out, and we will only be asking for information about taxes at this part of the public meeting, public input.
So, Kincaid, what's the name of this connection into this room in here?
PCSD board. Volume meter disconnect.
Okay, thank you for bearing with us. So why is CNT needed? It's replacing Shoreline, replacing Dixon to Shoreline. This school will stay here, but we are building Shoreline Middle School, Wasatch Elementary, and retaining employees. So the amount of tax revenue that Pueblo School District has charged per $100,000 of value over the last 10 years has stayed relatively flat, as you can see right there. So the highest amount we've charged on $100,000 of value was $434 in 2016 and 17. This next year, on per $100,000 of value, we will charge $403 per 1,000. So our tax rate is not shooting up dramatically. Our tax rate is flat. The other thing I want to show you is, unfortunately, I don't know if you can see it, but this bottom number, or this bottom section down here below the colored graph, is the assessed valuations of properties in Provo City. And what you see here is this is the certified average home value that we get from the county. So we call the county up and ask them what's the average home value, and they give it to us. So as you see, go back to 2016, 2017, we've averaged between essentially 9 and 5% every year. It jumped 9% from 2016 to 17 to 2017 to 18, 8% the next year, 8.92%, 8.5% the next year, 4.8% the next year, 9.73% last year. This coming year, Utah County changed the home values 33.39%. So we have no control over the values, but we did charge the same rate as we, or close to the same rate as we charged previously. So there's our tax rate, and here's what's happened to our taxes rate over the last 5 years. So from 2018 to 19 to 2019-20, it dropped 5.9%. The tax rate from 1920 to 2021 rose 2.9%. In 2021 to 2022, it dropped 4.4%, and then back up to the estimated proposed rate for this next year, 4.4%. Now that's comparing the actual rate to the actual rate. It doesn't take into effect of how the rate flows. That's just the rate and how the rate's been affected. Wasatch Elementary, so there's the rendering of Wasatch Elementary. The estimated cost on that right now is $35. No, not the estimated cost on that right now is $35 million. And we've seen significant amount of pressure from the construction industry, and unfortunately, the costs have escalated, as you can tell, and as everybody's heard. But the estimated cost on that is $35 million. Shoreline Middle School has been bid. The cost on that right now is it's $70 million. The reason it's $70 million is the actual building cost is $65 million, and then the architectural design and all the soft costs in terms of equipment going into the facility adds that additional $5 million. So that's why that project is $70 million. So then we have employee retention, the third item. And what you see here are all that red on the top line on all of those graphs are our employees compared to our neighboring districts. Okay? And unfortunately, what you see here is the middle one on the bottom is our master's level teacher. So a master's degree at Provo over their career earned $2.3 million, but a master's degree over at Alpine earns $2.7 million. There's a $400,000 difference over their career. So we're trying to be competitive. And unfortunately, that's pretty much across the district. All of our teachers see this, along with our administrators. Our administrators are in the same boat. Principals, compared an elementary principal or a high school principal, will see less over their career than our neighboring districts. And so that's to try to address this. So here's the property tax review system. So if you meet income thresholds that they have set by the state, there's multiple programs that are out there. You can go to this website, propertytax.utah.gov /tax relief, and there's that form here that you can fill out, and if you meet the criteria, they will essentially alleviate or mitigate your taxes. There's a new program that came out this year that they passed that even if your income levels do not meet this one, there's another one where they will say, we will let you not pay taxes on your property, and upon the sale of your home, then they will collect it. If somebody wants to take advantage of that, they have that option, but that is something that is an option if is of interest to you. here are all of the property tax relief options at that website, and they're available to people. And we encourage people, if you meet any of these criteria, please, and you're interested in it, go fill it out. That's what it's there for. It's designed to help people out. And that is the quick, the full budget is attached to what the board will have to be approving later on. It's been on the public websites, and it's been out there. We did a full budget review at our last budget hearing. So I would say I'd turn this over to you unless there's any other questions.
Again, we're going to open this up for public input. Again, this is a time for you to address the board. We will not be having back and forth interaction with you. This is a time for us to listen. Again, if you have further questions, we ask that you send them to Derek Anderson. I'll give you that email one more time. It's dereka@provo.edu. DEREKA@provo.edu. If you would still like to address the board, the paper's in the back. Please fill it out and then hand it to our secretary, Bonnie, in the front. Okay. And if I call you and you would like to decline, you're welcome to do so. You'll have 3 minutes to speak to the board and address your concerns. We'll first hear from Shirley Moulton.
Thank you for giving me a chance to speak. My name is Shirlene Moulton, and I live in the Sunset neighborhood at 1425 West, 600 South in Provo. I just wanted to kind of shed some light on this property tax increase. When the bond for the new school was on the ballot, we voted against it because we couldn't afford to pay more taxes. In your letter that came out with the proposed tax increase of 38% on property taxes, you gave the example of a home that was valued at $340,000, I believe. It would be really hard to find a home in Provo for $340,000 at this time. And you said with the increase that the taxes on this home would be, I believe, $200 and something for the property taxes on that. Our home on 6th South is one that we sold a home to build. We built it ourselves to keep the cost down. We bought the property from my husband's parents, which they gave us a good deal, so that we could afford to get in this house. The house is paid for. We do have some outbuildings, and I believe it was it's on 2 acres, and I believe it was valued at like about $750,000 in that price range. If this property tax increase goes through, over the last 2 years, our property taxes would have gone up about $1,650, putting us in the $4,000 range for our property taxes. We are both retired, and that hits us hard. We are on a fixed income. Also, we do not have any children in school at this time, and a lot of other people in in the area are in the same boat. We do care about education for our children, but perhaps you could get the extra revenue through tuition, and if they can't afford tuition, maybe they can get the free or reduced lunch version of that as well. Also, we live in a totally brick home. It has not been earthquake proofed. What's going to happen to us, we can't just bulldoze down our home and rebuild every
Because of the
time
number.
there's,
I appreciate that you're
I'm
addressing
great.
the board, but your 3 minutes are up and I need to make
Okay,
sure everybody
thank
has
you.
time. Thank you. James Paxman.
So we were here just a couple of years ago, it might have been three, lose track with COVID. But we had a double-digit school increase then that we talked about. A lot of it was kind of doing the comparison game that we tend to do around here. I do come from a family of educators, so I do understand what education salaries and things are like. But we'll always compare with Alpine, we'll always compare with others, and they do the same thing with us. And so they raise, and then we raise, and they raise, and you know, it just goes back and forth. Not everybody gets that privilege. Everybody in the private sector, I know many people that haven't had increases the last few years. So I think we're becoming a little bit too much like California, a little bit too much like Massachusetts. I have family in those school areas as well, and we should not become that way. The taxes just keep going up and up. Our increase this year is 29%. Yes, you play with the mill rate, you're not doing that, and so it really is 29% with an actual increase of 20% on the 20 different taxes I looked across the city. So it did go up quite a bit, and this is on the back of something that we just did a couple years ago where it was double digits. So I'd like to see us to go back to our more traditional roots of learning how to do without. Many of us here grew up in schools that did not have the earthquake fundamentals there, and so, you know, it would be nice, but we shouldn't have everything that would be nice. Let's go back to learning how to do things without. Thank you.
Corey Shelton. Is there Corey Shelton? Ken, thank you, I couldn't read. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I know in truth and taxation, there's a lot of way to make numbers tell whatever truth you want. The across-the-board 33% assessment or evaluation on homes, for example, there's so many anomalies you can't begin to address that stat. My wife and I, 75 years old, retired pro high school teacher. We can't afford to live in our own home. We were assessed over $200,000 just this year alone in increased value, resulting in over $620 just for the Provo School District. So that's just something we can't afford unless we don't want to pay for gas at $5 plus a gallon. The earthquake issue, probably 98% of homes in Provo would be destroyed by this same earthquake you're describing. So you wouldn't have an issue. You know, most of the homes would be destroyed in Provo. Your schools might be standing. The farce that you conducted last year on Timpview, where you claimed that Timpview would fall in any earthquake at all, just to get that bond passed, was a sheer lie. Hate to see you go to that level. So yeah, we're being charged a lot for what we're getting. Also, there's an issue of illegal immigration in this city. Half of students, as I recall, at Provo I are Hispanic. I don't know if you have a stat how many are illegal. that greatly increases the cost that taxpayers subsidize. Hopefully you have an answer for that. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Pam Jones?
I'd like to say amen to everyone who's spoken so far. I'm on a fixed income, as are a lot of people. And I think Social Security went up 4% this year, but inflation is about 9%. And that's just for survival costs like food. I think it's time that the schools look at just cutting back on things that aren't absolutely necessary. I'm a former educator myself, not in Utah, and I understand the problems of teacher salaries and so on. But those of us who are providing the tax revenue have our expenses that we have to take care of too. And apparently the school board has forgotten the bond that was proposed a couple of years ago that the people turned down. And so you cut some expenses and proposed another one. Okay, we passed that. But it's far too soon and far too much money this time.
Thank you. Eric Chase?
I wasn't expecting to go so early, but I just want to say that if the school board and the school district could have worked together to pass a bond 4 years ago that would have rebuilt Dixon on site and done a partial rebuild of Timpview at the time, those projects could all be completed already and be done before the major construction inflation took place, and been able to qualify for lower interest rates. And the decision to move the middle school, to close this building, has left us with a huge deficit in our facilities. You're going to have to do something with this after all the students are out. And that's at least a $10 million project. You have no money for it. It's going to be very hard to pass a bond in the future for that. You're kind of leaving the neighborhood hanging here. Some of the board members have suggested that this poor neighborhood here have a bake sale to fundraise in order to raise those $10 million. And I sat through a lot of meetings like this sat in the back in a lot of them and heard board members and staff members of the district be dismissive and rude towards members of the public regarding their feelings on this, and I think there's a better. You guys have dug us a real hole with this. We heard from your assistant superintendent over secondary a few months ago that he thinks the school district would be better served by having 3 middle schools, and so we have hundreds of millions of dollars in bonds out now for facilities that don't even meet our current needs and no way to pay for our future needs. I hope we can find a way to work together to fix that.
Thank you. Mark Hilliard?
Hi, I'm Mark Hillier. I just wanted to make a few things. I mean, no matter how you do the numbers, I've got a 30% increase on my taxes this year. Like a lot of people have said, and I'm college educated, and I wish I made what some of these teacher salaries that you're showing us are, and I don't even get summers off. So it's kind of hard for me to feel bad about that for a lot of these teacher salaries. I've had very, very modest increases in wages at my job. Had a few other things. With replacing the schools, I mean, one of the schools you said was almost 100 years old. That's 100 years that you could have been saving for school replacement costs. Why was that not happening? And do they need to be replaced? I've lived overseas in many countries over the last few years. A school like this would be a palace. A lot of places would love to have a school. We get so used to having these luxuries, building these schools that look like Class A office space, and your students really need it. Does it help with our numbers and compared to other places with, test scores and math and other, you hear about these STEM and engineering, math, other sort of things, and a lot of people don't have school facilities that are even half as good as this that we have here. So why do we need another school necessarily? Or that money for schools could go to pay for teacher retention, because that's probably a better source of student success. Let's see, I made a few more notes here. The property values have gone up a lot more. We've heard a lot of people talk about inflation, property values. My tax bill's gone up a lot. And quite frankly, I'm not on a fixed income, but it's a big burden on me and my young family to see an increase of $1,000 a year. It's a lot of money. You can pay for a lot of groceries and gas. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Brad Wood. Yes.
All right, well, I appreciate the opportunity to sit in with the board. Thank you for that introduction on budget, reasons for the budget, and also in most of the case, process for attached bill assistance. And so I've written that down. I am on a fixed income. We've owned in Provo probably 40 plus years. Right now we have no business school, no grant business school, no well business school, but I do understand the importance of education. I thought it was interesting, brought up by one of the individuals, there was a bond that was proposed and was voted down heavily by Provo City. And I almost considered this an end around. Okay, well, you can't pass a bond, so we'll just use it for property tax. But I do realize from one statement you made that there is a factor, and my property taxes in the county did go up 33%, and so it's not all just because of you decided to raise yours, so I need to look at that tax relief. I do feel, like was also mentioned, we basically are looking at a pretty large bite that's tough to take right now because of all the other increases we've had. And so that makes it tough for somebody on a fixed income. But again, I appreciate the fact that we have some relief forms I can fill out, for potential release, which can lower that first assessment, and then whatever your percentage comes from there. The objects that have been, items that have been raised relative to some of the concerns about, well, do we need this now? Do we need some of these, what do you call, Class A buildings, some of these increases in building? I question that myself too. I know that in that 40 years we've lived here, this board is fairly new, for that amount of time, but there was quite a bit of administration to make decisions in the past. I recognize that. And that's why some of these bond issues were voted down, because they made poor decisions in the past that were asking for more money again. And we said, no, you are in the track record that you didn't use that many twice. That of course, comes classes in on us right now. But I still feel that this is just a bigger price than I can take, our family, the two of us can take on our kids. So that's just, from my perspective, thank you.
Thank you. Jean West.
Gene West here. I'm on a fixed income and it was quite a shock to see the proposed increase in my taxes. I know that this new tax is not the only thing that's going to be affecting all of us people looking at the inflation rate that's going on, which is really tough for many folks in this situation. So that's all I have to say.
Lindsay Backus.
Hello, I am Lindsay Backus, President of Provo Education Association. I just wanted to come and speak in favor of the truth in taxation, and I know that we are all working collaboratively to have the best schools and the best teachers and the best place for our Provo community to come and bring our children to school in places that feel welcoming to them. And also to encourage and attract teachers that want to come and stay. I have been in Provo for my entire career, starting this year as year 17, and I love it, and there is no place else I want to teach. I want to help support the truth in taxation so we can attract the best and keep them here. So, thank you.
Thank you. J. Ross Salmon.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for letting us have some public forum for this. I appreciate the job you're doing. I know it's not easy, but you are in a fiduciary responsibility position for the city and for all of the residents of the city. First, that presentation, I don't know, I guess unless we get an elections thing on that, so is there a way of getting that?
Yeah, it's attached to board docs, but if you want to send me an email.
If I email you, I can get it? Okay, thank you. There's a, get this here. There's a report online, Utah School Spending Report. The most current version is only 2017, 2018. I would assume that you're somewhat familiar with that, but maybe for those in the audience that aren't, there are 41 school districts in Utah. That's a bit of a travesty because we have boards and administration and everything for all these school districts, and if we had some that were combined, we'd probably cut some of the expenses, but that's another topic for another day. But Provo's 12th of 41 with 16,165 students. Alpine's the largest. The closest school district that we could compare Provo to is Tooele with 16,900 students, so about 800 students more than Provo. 13th is Box Elder with 11,000, so it's quite a drop there. But of the top 19 school districts, Provo School District is the the highest spent expense per student by far in many situations. To compare them to Tooele, for example, Tooele is 7,698 per student. Provo is 11,223, which is 31% higher than Tooele. These facts stun me because when we're talking about revenue, how do we get more revenue for the Provo School District? For those numbers, it seems like we're very inefficient and we have some work to do. And I'd love to pay the teachers more. Somehow we're spending a lot of money, but it's, I guess, not on teachers. We have this presentation set, it's not on teachers. So I would say you got your homework to do to go back to the drawing board and figure out how do we cut our expenses so you're more in line with the other school districts in the state and have the fiduciary responsibility so that we can be a top-notch school district and not wasteful. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to tell where all that money's going, but hopefully those numbers are somewhat realistic. And so I guess my point is that let's work a little harder on being more efficient and spending money wisely and not looking for how to get more money so that we can frivolously spend it otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul next.
Just like to echo what Boss Sam said. In business, I've run several of them. When the money isn't there, you have to figure out other ways to cut money. And it may include some layoffs. It may include some creative and new ways. We appreciate what you're doing in reference to some of this cost savings you're doing. But there has to be more. There just has to be more. There has to be more inventive ways to be able to save money. And this idea that I think we all think that government, when they need more money, they don't think that way. They just think, well, let's just raise some taxes, right? Yeah, I know that's probably not totally true, but in this case, we've just got to be able to sharpen our pencils more. And there's got to be ways to do it. Another thing that we ought to look at, too, is that oftentimes we think that in order to get people, we have to pay them more. That's just an easy thing to do, right? If we pay them more, we can have more people apply. People do not quit their jobs, they quit their bosses. And the challenge here is to create an environment of employees that love their job and doing different and unique things to be able to keep people here, right? And if we can do that, again, be more creative and more ideas focused in reference to what can we do to keep the people that we have. Sure, we can throw money at them, but I guarantee money isn't going to solve the issue. It just never is. You talk to most businesses, it's not money, it's the culture. And I've heard some bad things about Provo School District's culture and how they treat their employees. So maybe as a board, you can look at some different ways that we can incentivize employees other than just money. Is it important? Yes. But when you take surveys, it typically isn't the very first thing. It's always not 6 or 7 on the list because people want to belong to a family. They want to belong to something more important and bigger than themselves. So I just challenge the board to do 2 things. Sharpen your pencils. Not good enough. It's just not good enough. You got to do more. You just can't raise taxes. That's not the solution. And second, come up with some more creative ways to keep the employees that you have. And do some different things. Do whatever you have to do to be able to give these employees an opportunity to be able to grow within themselves. And you won't have to keep throwing money. You chase the money getting it. You give them more money, give them more money, give them more money, and they'll continue to leave. So that's my thoughts. Thank you.
I hope I don't slaughter this name, so I apologize. Nikolai Cherusky.
Hello. For a second there, I don't know, my name is not going to come up. I'm always the most unlucky person you've ever met. If anything bad is to happen, it happens to me. But man, they're not going to call me. Anyways, let me put it straight. I have a picture in my mind, you know, Provo City, the people living in Provo City being a cow, a milk cow. And you guys are just milking it. You're milking it to death. And you know, I mean, how far can you go before that cow is going to die? My question is, you do this right now, this year. Next year it's going to be the same, and then again and again and again. All the projects you're going to come up with, you're just going to raise taxes. Because that's the easiest way to, you know, to do your stuff. I don't think that anybody should have the right to find the easy way out of their own promise, you know, of their own creation, so to speak. I'm pretty sure that you can come up with very better solutions than raising taxes on people who cannot afford to even put gas in their car or stuff like that. Somebody said that there is a 7% inflation. Try more like between 70 and 200% on certain things. I don't care what the news say. I don't watch CNN. And if you watch CNN, you better don't. Because you're just wasting your time, okay? They're just brainwashing. That's all they're doing. And this year, right here, we're talking to ourselves. Do you think these people here in front of us care? They don't care. They just make you look like they care so they can do their stuff. So that being said, I tell you what, make students in their art class create something, you know, and then open a store on the side or send those creations to be sold. And sold for good money, you know, at auctions or whatever, for a good cause. Put a story behind them and then raise money. Raise money that way. Don't burden people who cannot afford a life in Provo, Utah, you know, with more taxes. Another thing, think about it. 70% of our taxes we pay on our property taxes come from the school district. If we default on our taxes, what happens? We lose our homes. So why? Why should it be like that? We get penalized for being property owners? That's not right. That's a mafia-style action that is happening here. Racketeering. That's what it is. And if these things don't change, the noose around our neck is going to get tighter and tighter. I guarantee you that. I promise you that. I'm from Romania, I know what I'm talking about. I lived through these kind of things, and they will get worse. They'll never get better. So wake up, people. We need to do something about it. These things have been turned down before, but there is a way of them coming back like mushrooms. And there's inventive ways of doing things, taking care of these things their own way. So thank you very much.
Valerie Paxton.
I'd like to just give you 3 simple things to think about. First, our property valuations went up by 33% this year. So automatically, you guys all got a lot of money just by that. Second, there's a recession coming. And I would encourage you to wait at least 1 to 2 years before you do the 2 school projects. Because more than likely, the costs will come down during the recession. Be patient. Give it a minute. Take a breath. It's lasted 90 to 100 years. It can last 2 more. And third, right now, the Provo citizens are bearing the weight of replacing the water treatment plant. That's the other big bill, the big increase on our bill this year. It was 25% for just that, and it's another 29% from you. It's huge. Those are heavy burdens that you are asking us to carry. I'm asking you to just be patient, take a year or 2 maybe on those buildings, take the money and the increases that you're already getting without raising the rate, and put that towards our teachers if that's where the real need is. But really, there are economies of scale. So when you compare us to Alpine School District, who has multiple cities, all that have one board and large economies of scale when it comes to administration, yeah, they can. They have more money to put towards teachers. So I don't know if you can implement that here in Provo, but it's like Paul Mick said, you've got to run some numbers, you've got to figure out where you can cut things, because the burden that we are carrying as taxpayers is very heavy, and this year it's been a significant increase. It's too much. Thanks.
George Frey.
Good evening. I thought it was American Idol tryouts. But to be honest, I think the chances of getting this reduced is probably as good as my chances of winning American Idol or even getting on. I'm George Fry. My wife is a multi-decade teacher, just retired this year. I'm the one that came before the board a few years ago and asked to have our taxes raised so we can support our education, our teachers, and our kids, which is our most wonderful asset we have, and they need to be supported, so I understand that. But we're retiring this year, and we did the right thing, and we sat down and made a budget, and we even anticipated an increase in property taxes until this came a couple weeks ago. And it was frankly shocking. I wish I had been taught new math and didn't have the numbers. School tax increase for me, 55%. My overall tax, 49%. No, that's property value, went up 49%. With the adjustment, residential adjustment, it's only 43%. My overall tax went up 43%. That's the big picture in 1 year. And that's due when? I believe November? I planned out several years ahead on my retirement. And the problem also is timing of this meeting. This is vacation time. I could have had 20 or 30 more people here. I'm representing a lot in our neighborhood. We need to hold this in September. I talked to Senator Bramble, got him off the lake at Lake Powell, representing Robinson, and they're hearing a lot, and they're going to be doing some stuff. And Senator Bramble is not a friend of education. He looks for excuses to whack you guys. I know. And so, you know, I paid off my home a few years ago, but I don't own my home. And that's the problem. Is you can't afford it. It's not just income, it's cash flow. It's cash flow. You can make $100,000 and not be able to afford a $1,000 increase. And it's timing, it's preparation. I have 30 seconds left. In the last few seconds, my mom told me sometimes, be quiet, be still. So in the last few seconds, I want you to think about the older couple, like my mom and dad, the last few years that I had to run their finances. They couldn't afford this. This is going to increase rents for our younger people in 2 years, maybe next year. So please, the system's broken. We need to fix it. Thank you.
David Orrick.
Hi, appreciate you guys letting us present here, speak to you. We're 7 members of the school board. You're the ones who represent us. We know that you're here for the students, and so are we. We love the students, and we need to pay it forward. I was a student here in Provo. When I was 12 years old, we built a brand new school, Rock Canyon Elementary. Since then, it's been torn down and rebuilt again. It surprised me. I think I understand a little bit more now about why, but I'm not sure it's the right thing. I also have a daughter who just left education because she couldn't afford, as a teacher, she was getting paid between $35,000 and $40,000 a year. It wasn't good enough. She went on to a better job. So I understand the teachers are not getting paid enough. I don't understand a lot of things that were presented today. I don't think that they were presented in an honest, completely honest way. I think we've heard the administration's point of view. I wonder where the newspapers are, why we haven't gotten more information. I spent at least 12 hours researching as much as I could. You got my attention though when my taxes went up 29%. Doubled in the last 15 years since I moved back to Provo. I found out that there are about 16,000 students, but last year it's shown a little over 13,000. Are we going up or going down? Where are we going in the future with numbers of students? Full-time administration salaries in 2021 ranged from 34,000 to 206,000. There are 722 full-time teachers in 2021. We're talking about over $5.5 million to those. Is it going to those 770 teachers, or is it going across the board to the 3,500 employees in the school district? If it goes to the teachers, they get a $7,000 range, but I don't think it is. There are 32 teachers that earn only between $34,000 and $45,000. That's the
pathetic. This shouldn't be happening. I don't know why they're still that low in our district. There are 138 teachers that earn between $45,000 and $50,000. That's still not very good. Most of the teachers earn between $50,000 and $69,000. I know that's not great, but it's as many of us earn. 170 teachers earn between $70,000 and $100,000, and there are 10 teachers that earn over $100,000. There are 45 administrators, including 18 supervisors and directors. I'm not sure exactly what they do, but it matches the number of schools in the district, so maybe that's what that is. Accountants, school principals, and a few other administrators, they earn between $100,000 and $206,000 per year. Are they getting part of that raise? 18 supervisors and directors earned between $92,000 and $162,000. 30 principals and assistants earned between $85,000 and $125,000. So I want to know who's in control of this school board, who is representing us, who has the business acumen to look at the numbers and to ask questions of your administrators and those who are coming up with these figures. I have a lot of questions, I have a lot of comments, and I hope that the Daily Herald comes up and talks to me after this, because I have not found any articles in the Daily Herald. Thank you.
John Sutherland.
Good evening. I appreciate this opportunity. I've lived in Provo in my house for 30 years. I've never seen a tax increase like this in the time I've lived here. I have a daughter and a daughter-in-law who are teachers, so I certainly understand the need to pay our teachers sufficiently. But the whole point of truth in taxation is that the amount of money the district gets should stay the same, regardless of what the property valuations do. It's not that when the property valuations go up 33%, you're supposed to increase your taxes by 29%. That's a crazy amount. Inflation's running at 9%. Are you sure you can't do something a little bit more close to what the inflation rate is, rather than this triple the inflation rate number that you put out there? When we hit a recession and property values fall in a year or two, say they fall 20%, are you willing to take a 20% cut in your revenue from taxation? I mean, you're gobbling up everything you possibly can. You know, the whole 33% is a ridiculous amount. You're taking operational dollars that are coming in as tax revenue and you're spending on capital items. That's not the way I've ever run a business, and I've run several. I understand the state gave you a pretty decent increase in your WPU this year. You know, where is that going? I was a little late, maybe you talked about it, but there's money coming in from the state that was, I understand, quite a significant increase this year. Every dollar of our income tax also goes to public education. So all my income taxes, and now you're going to hit me with another, 29% in property taxes. So I think that the school board needs to work on finding some savings. This is a ridiculous amount of increase that you're putting people through. You've heard from a lot of people on fixed income. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm on the cusp. And, I can't see how you could do this to the people in Provo who are living on fixed incomes. I think you need to sharpen your pencils and figure out where to cut some money. And frankly, I was unappreciative of the fact that you're sitting there telling us property values are up 30%, so we've got Derek here telling us, therefore we can take and raise ours by 29. There was an attitude there that I don't appreciate. So thank you for listening to me, and I appreciate the time.
Ty Lagerberg.
Thank you. Ty Lagerberg, I live at 319 North, 1420 East. First, I want to say thank you to the board. I know you have a really tough job. I'm married to a career educator. She retired from the Jordan School District last year. I have a daughter who teaches in Nebo School District. I have a son who taught in South Jordan and he couldn't do it anymore. He went to the private sector. It makes 4 times what he did in the school. So I understand that teachers are underpaid. We don't have a problem in Provo of the revenue is not there, but I understand, one of the gentlemen mentioned Tooele. The problem with Tooele is they get federal impact funds. I'm a retired Air Force officer. I know about how much the federal government puts in when you don't pay taxes on a military installation. We don't have a military installation in Provo. That's a problem. The biggest problem we've got here, though, is our tax base. It's not increasing. It's not getting any bigger. It's not like Saratoga Springs where they're building houses like crazy, or south down in Nebo where they're building like crazy. Alpine gets more and more and more tax base every year. So does Nebo. We don't. We barely eke out. So I have a very radical proposal, and that is we need to combine. They have a huge tax base to the north. We have one to the south. We need to go into one of those districts. This gentleman read off all of the directors and those overhead positions. We eliminate those, that gives money to the teachers. They already have those in place in our north and south districts. I know it's a tough thing to do. Provo's been here for many, many years. I had ancestors from here. But we've got to bite the bullet, and maybe it's time to combine with the people who have the money and have the tax base. Thanks.
Brad Stone.
So I actually got here at 6 o'clock because that's what I thought the meeting was. But I got to sit in on the board meeting before this, and I got to tell you, I was a little impressed with the board because they were reviewing some expenditures and they were questioning them, especially Terry. You were like, I got a question. And I was really glad to see that because the board here, you guys represent us. And so we appreciate you doing that job, and we hope you are listening to the people here today and taking that into account. So thank you very much for that. It would be really helpful if we got these slides that we saw ahead of time. Derek, you're not a board member, so you're going to represent the school and the expenses, and I get that. I think, though, that what we saw on those slides, a little bit that I could see, a number of us, I think, saw that there were some games being played with the numbers. I hope the board members get a chance to look more deeply into that. Let me highlight maybe a couple of those. Because what we're really talking about here are not percentages, but real dollar increases. You can cut percentages different ways, but let's look at the real dollar increases. One of the points is, hey, we only have a small amount coming from this property tax. More comes from federal and state. Guess where that money comes from? That comes from us as well, okay? So that seems a little disingenuous. What about not paying taxes now because we're not allowed a waiver, or we're going to pay them in the future when we sell our house? That doesn't cut the costs. That just shifts the burden to somebody else or to a later point in time. The heat map that showed the salary comparisons, you pointed right at the lifetime amount and how different that was. But if you look at the ones that are, the normal monthly salaries and stuff, there wasn't that much difference. Certainly not enough to justify a 30% increase. So, as board members, we really need you to protect us against this. Look at the real impact. Hold the line. Look at the real costs. Look at the cost per student. Use those for comparisons that we have there. We just need to be more efficient. Now, as far as salaries go, people are leaving companies all over the place for different reasons. Sometimes it's salary, but a lot of times it has to deal with a better work environment. I love the comments that were made earlier about that. None of us that run businesses, all of us in our businesses have the same problem. People are trying to find other places where they might be able to make money, but the people in this room that do that can't raise their salaries by 30% or increase their money that they're doing. I don't know, but by show of hands, how many people here got a 30% raise this year? One day?
Oh, I took in taxes.
Oh, taxes, yeah, not a raise. None of us did, right? So the thing is, we have to be like the rest of us here. We can't just scale, do things the way we've always done them. We have to innovate, find new ways of doing things, and make those tough decisions to cut less productive activities and focus on activities that truly educate our students. So we ask the school board, please, protect us, hold the line, hold the school district accountable. If this tax increase happens, it's because you let it happen. So I'm asking you today, vote this tax increase down, no taxes at all, 0 increase.
Trent Beasley.
Trent Beasley, thanks for the opportunity to share a couple thoughts.
My wife is a second grade teacher at Lakeview Elementary. Started teaching a couple years ago and just loves it. So we're very supportive of public education. 5 kids who are benefiting from Provo School District currently. We're in a recession, and it's some people are understanding that and believing that, and other people are feeling it, and others are unsure where that really stands. But I'm in the real estate business. I'm a broker and a developer, and I interact with a lot of developer builders. Right now, for new construction, sales are down 80%, and their absorption projections are 80 to 90% less than they have been prior to these recent interest rate increases. That's going to be a major impact on the economy of Utah County and our state of Utah. Over 50% of the land acquisition for new developments that have been under contract are failing to close currently. So if we think about what this is going to do for unemployment in the construction sector, which has really been in a strong boom, it's going to be difficult and challenging. So I share that because I think it is time to be a little bit patient, to not be too quick to say we need to charge forward quickly. There is going to be some relief with construction. There's going to be a lot of people looking for work, and that can be to the district's great benefit. So let's be patient there. As a real estate broker, I've had many clients reach out to me recently and friends because they know I've been in the business quite a long time, asking what do we do? Very concerned, very shocked at this. One of them sent me their notice today. Their tax valuation, and I know this isn't your portion, but it does affect you and us. $180,000 to $356,000. That's almost a 100% increase in valuation. Now you add on your increase of, in their case, about 28% on top of that. That is an impact that is not able to be borne in one shot. So let's be thoughtful. Let's be aware of the effects on so many people. I do believe that you guys care. I think this is a time to listen, and hopefully you are really listening and will take this into account, as we are in a time that many people are struggling and will be struggling like we haven't in a long, long time. Thanks for allowing me to speak.
Patrice McKnight.
It's Katrina McKnight. I live at 1268 East, 700 South. I've lived here for almost 25 years. And my kids have all gone to school here, and it's been a great place to live. And I've really appreciated the schools and the teachers, and I also appreciate that they don't get paid enough. And I believe very strongly that you guys are in these positions because you care a lot, and because our kids are important to you, just like they are to us, just members of Provo. However, I think timing is a huge issue right now with your announcement to increase taxes. Just because it says on a piece of paper that my house is worth so much money doesn't mean a darn thing, because I'm not selling my house tomorrow. So I don't have money in the bank because my house on paper is worth a certain amount of money. That doesn't increase how much I have to give. So just think about that, I guess. I also understand that we pay for the sins of the past, right? So in the past, the people of Provo City decided to not replace aging schools for a really, really long time, 50 years. And so all of our schools were aging at the same time, which means that they all break down at the same time. I get it. I think there have definitely been mistakes made in where money was spent in the past, which again does not reflect on any of you. It does a little bit reflect on Provo in general, right? That we don't like to spend money. That's okay. But it means that now we have to pay for things that should have been replaced a long time ago. I guess I just want to agree with what's been said in terms of bad timing, short notice, and it's just too much. So, thanks.
Michelle Wages.
My name is Michelle Wages. I live at 371 West, 200 South in Provo. That's basically downtown. I want to say thank you for having the courage to make this increase when it's not popular. No one's got money for it, and it sucks. No one wants to have to pay more money out of their pockets. But this is the time. We cannot afford to kick the can down the road. This school board and previous school boards have learned their lesson from the past, as was just said. We kick the can down the road on multiple schools. The city has kicked the can down the road on replacing multiple other things. We cannot afford to dilly-dally. The lives of students are in your hands. This is your choice. You have thousands of students in those buildings that are unsafe. Utah State Risk Management has specifically told you, if you do not fix those, your students will die. I'm not generally a dramatic person. Actually, I'm over-dramatic, if you guys know me. And those are the facts. So have the courage to do the right thing. No one ever wants to pay more taxes. It's never convenient to have to buy a new car. Your car breaks down on the side of the road, you have an accident. No one ever has money to buy a new car. No one ever has money to replace the roof on their house. But stuff happens. And so this is what we have to do. Whether you have students in the district, you don't have students in the district, this is the time. And we can't afford to procrastinate any longer. Because if you do, it will be 100 times worse 2 or 3 years down the road. And the district knows that. You cannot afford to procrastinate. Thank you for having the courage to do the right thing and to raise these taxes. It's unpopular. No one's ever popular. You might as well realign the boundaries. That would be more popular than what you're doing right now. So thank you for having the courage to do that. I appreciate that. My pockets will be even smaller than they were. I have 3 graduates from the Provo School District, and I have 3 currently in the district. And I paid more than my share of fees and stuff to the school district, but I'm here to tell you it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board? I know there were a few others that turned it in, but we will wait for our other public input to address it. That was it about taxes? So this, we're doing a second in public input in our business meeting on other items. Okay. Is there any other members that would like to talk about truth in taxation? Do you want me to call you up now? Okay, hold on. Are you Douglas Gabb? Come on up to the board. Yeah, we'll call you up.
Thank you.
Sorry, Doug Gale.
Doug Gale, yeah,
Sorry.
thank you. I'm sorry about my confusion about that. I've been to several of these meetings before and worked with the board. When the first bond didn't pass, I remember board person McKay said that the board had a relationship problem with Provo City, and you have to go on the other side of it. And the citizens have a problem, relationship problem too. It's both sides. But this probably isn't helping the relationship out at all. When you look at the numbers, I think most of us just look at the dollar amount that we have to pay. If it's $400 or $500, and so the percentages presented, like Brad Stone said, it's kind of a shell game. And so you benefited in having a lower increase because the evaluations went up. So that isn't quite accurate. But we just look at the amount of money that we're all having to put out. I do think the idea is a novel one, but one to consider, and that is to join districts. You know, that may help us because we have a problem. Our tax basis isn't that well. We'd have to see it. We could find a really rich one that would take us, I guess. In the relationship issues, I think we could have done things differently, and the board is elected, and they last for a while, and the new board is elected, unlike the federal government, where if you're elected, you stay there forever. And so one board can't obligate another board. So I know a lot of changes happen. Wasatch Elementary could have been built many years ago, but the money was put somewhere else. So I'm aware of some of those issues that you have. One thing that I'm a little disappointed in, I became somewhat involved, is we looked at 3 middle schools. I think that a smaller middle school would meet the needs of our students better, and we could have kept our one middle school, redone Dixon Middle School, and then when the population grew out west, build another middle school. So that to have considered, I think would have been good for the board to give it a serious consideration. I think you did consider it, but it didn't happen. That's where I think the community and the board could work together a little bit better. That would be helpful. The other one, there's all kinds of deadlines and criterion, but I know when the first bond didn't pass, a new bond it passed. I didn't vote for the first bond, I voted for the second bond, and I'm disappointed that you didn't bond again, because if you bond, it's less money than if you don't bond. So, yeah, I know you've given a lot of figures, but if we went to a bond that we had to vote on, it would be less money than how you funded this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to close this portion of our meeting and move into our business meeting. So is there a motion to adjourn? All right. We are now we are going to move into our business meeting. We are convened as the Provo City School District Board of Education. Today is Tuesday, August 9th, 2022. We are meeting at Dixon Middle School at 750 West, 200 North in Provo, Utah. And we will begin with the roll call. We'll start with Derek.
Derek Anderson, Business Administrator.
Gina Hales, Board Member. Jennifer Partridge, Board Member. Rebecca Nielsen, Board Vice President.
Melanie Hall, Board President. Karen McKay, Board Member.
Nate Bryson, Board Member.
We need to excuse McKay Jensen and also our Superintendent, Keith Rattel. Is there a motion to convene our business meeting?
I move that we convene our business meeting.
We are now in our business meeting, and we will have our opening remarks by our Vice President, Rebecca Nielsen. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for being here to join us for our meeting. I have prepared some remarks for this evening, and it turns out that President Hall had the exact same thoughts as I did and gave almost the same remarks in today's kickoff event for the teachers. And since that was mainly for the teachers and the staff, I'll just go ahead and repeat a little bit of it here so you can hear. The two of us actually attended the white coat ceremony recently, just a few days ago, for the brand new medical school that's located here in Provo, the Norda College of Osteopathic Medicine. Did I get that right? Something like that. NordaCom is what they abbreviate it to. And there was a man who gave some remarks, and he asked all of the medical students to do something very specific. He asked the medical students to take out your phone, and then he said, please write down these 4 letters. And the 4 letters were IATP. And that stands for, it's about the patient. And he emphasized to the doctors how they needed to remember that they needed to do everything in the best interest of the patient,
and not anything for their self-interest, their own self-interest, but to keep the patient first and foremost in what they do as doctors. And it was a great message, and I thought we could absolutely apply that to our work here in the schools. And if we just tweak it just a little bit, we literally had the exact same thought. If we change it to IATS, it turns into it's all about the student. And that is, if you look at our board goals, it's our very first goal, which is, and now that I'm on the spot, I can't think of the exact wording, but it's all about the students. That's where we go. What we go with first is academic. Why can't I think of the wording? Anyways, it's for us as a board, it is all about the student. And I know a lot of you were here earlier for our truth in taxation hearing, and you're all aware that we've raised our tax rate and the valuations of our homes have gone up, and I fully recognize that it is a very, very tough thing for people to have their taxes raised. I am included in the group. I live here in Provo. My taxes have gone up immensely, and I will be feeling it in my monthly mortgage payments. And I'm not excited about it, personally. I'm not. But I do want to remind us that we need it to be about the students. We're required to give a fair education to every child in this city. And if we want to accomplish that goal, and a good education at that, if we want to accomplish that goal, it has to be about the students. But in order for it to be about the students, we can't forget things like teacher pay. Because if we forget that part, we don't have teachers to teach our students, and then it can't be about the students. And we can't forget the part about where we have to have safe and welcoming buildings for our kids to be in. If we don't have buildings, or if we have buildings that collapse during earthquakes, we don't have students, or we can't make it about the students. I just wanted us to think about those four letters, IATS. And I want to just recognize from both perspectives that yes, the tax raise is difficult for everyone, including myself. But that we need to remember the students. And in remembering teacher salary and fixing our buildings, it does become about the students. And that's what I had to say. And also in our district here, it's tradition, whoever has opening marks, to open with a word of prayer. And seeing as we have some very difficult decisions this evening, I'd like to go ahead and carry on with that tradition and offer a word of prayer to begin our meeting. Our dear Heavenly Father, we're so grateful to be here tonight as citizens of this city and as members of the Board of Education and as employees of this school district. We're grateful for the opportunity we have to serve the students in our district and to be able to offer them education and opportunities. And we're grateful for this opportunity we have tonight to meet and to make decisions and to be able to hopefully accomplish some of the goals we have as a board and as a city and as employees. And we ask for the guidance tonight as a board as we make these decisions. Please bless us with that guidance, and please bless us all here with a spirit of understanding and cooperation as we go about our work. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Thank you, Rebecca. Next, we'll be led by we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll be led by Anne-Marie Harrison.
I invite you to join me. The flag is displayed on the wall. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next we're going to have our public input part. I know there were a couple that had turned in theirs, so I will turn that in. And if there's others that still would like to address the board, the forms are in the back and they need to be turned in to Bonnie, our secretary. So, Mary Hendergan.
Let's begin with the assumption that everybody is doing the best they can with the resources they have. I want to draw your attention to the packets that I gave you guys. These are photos that I took on Sunday morning from the grounds of my local Westridge Elementary. It includes significant hazards and just plain eyesores. They include weeds of all varieties. You might have to share my printer around on me. Weeds of all varieties, including a poisonous nightshade and its appealing berries, and a dead branch precariously teetering over the kindergarten playground. Again, I have absolute confidence in facility management who are doing a lot of work with few resources. What I propose is to find a way to make it easier to engage those resources who are in the community through volunteering and donation. Most of what the district needs to improve its community engagement is simply structural, a better way to connect volunteers and potential donors to the district and to especially their local neighborhood schools. Too often when educational administrators say community, they mean parents of our students. That's not right. The community needs to mean the full community, usually at the neighborhood of the school. There are untapped financial and volunteer resources in the community. Oh gosh, sorry guys, get the stage right. Surrounding each building. Provo City schools and sorry, no. Take a deep breath. You know it's weird because I used to like perform on the regular, but stage fright, crazy. Okay, it's largely a matter of welcoming those resources in. So let's take a look at the example of Westridge Elementary. Although these pictures are dismal, they're not daunting. 10 people working 2 hours could set right everything in the pictures that I'm taking. There's no easy mechanism, though, for 10 people to come together to work at school. When I tried to volunteer to do it took me literally 5 hours just to know who I should email. And when I did, I was told that volunteers were not welcome because they take too much of the district's resources to supervise them, and then we make mistakes that they have to then fix. In a separate instance, I had extra money in my family's giving budget, and it took 2 weeks of stopping by our local school to the front office to learn that they could use some Kleenex and dry erase markers. It took another week just to be able to drop them off. How much easier would it have been to just simply posted a wish list on the school's website from teachers and administrators, or even better yet, just have a yellow button to give generally. On the sheet, you have more details about a range of opportunities that you could do, from more resource intensive to less resource intensive, to be able to engage volunteers. It's not as though Provo City is lacking in people who want to help the schools, who feel committed to the schools and use them not just for their children's education, but also for recreation, also just something to be proud of in their communities. The man hours are there. I talked recently with the volunteer coordinator for Provo City, and she said there are literally thousands of hours being donated at the city level. On the sheet I referred to, there's some Q&A sort of questions about some potential difficulties with engaging volunteers more, but it's simply a matter of structure. The community can provide much volunteer labor and financial donation for their neighborhood schools, but they can also generate something in similar short supply, goodwill. Building strong community ties will foster trust and unity, but it cannot happen without the digital and institutional infrastructure to support and encourage those community volunteers. Thank you.
Thank you. Allison Pack. All right, is there anyone else that would like to address the board? Okay, we will close our public input part for this evening and move on to our business items. All right. First, we would need to approve our Utah Early Learning Plan. Anne-Marie, would you like to give some background on that?
Yeah, just to summarize, this is a plan required of every district and charter in the state each year to look at their student performance in grades K through 3 and make some goals and commit to some actions in order to support that learning, all towards our really important third grade reading goal. So this is the plan that has been created with the district team, and we worked with the State Office of Education on that, and they have given it their pre-approval, so we are seeking your approval tonight.
Okay, is there a motion on this?
I move that we approve the draft, is that right? Provo City School District Early Learning Plan for the 2022-2023 school year as discussed in study session.
Motion made by Board Member Hales. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Board Member Bryson. Is there any further discussion on this motion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor indicate with aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. All right, next we need to approve a large purchase request. Derek, do you want to talk about that, the T&L large purchase request?
So what you have before you is a large purchase request for teaching and learning. It's for the K-3 reading program, or the early literacy program, as I'm used to calling it. And it's for the 2022-2023 fiscal year.
May I add something?
Yes.
President Hall, thank you. Just to go along with that, this is money that we have been given money by the state, but as you have policy purchases over $50,000 require your approval. So we're kind of a pass-through agent in this. This is paying for the letters. That's teacher training for our K-3 teachers who are learning about the science of reading, as well as some materials for them. So this is not district funding, this is state funding being spent by districts.
Right, is there a motion on this?
I move that we approve the large purchase request with state funds for Lexia in the amount of $87,295.
I second that.
Okay, motion made by Board Member Hales and second by Board Member Partridge. Is there any further discussion on this motion? All right, see none, all those in favor indicate with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Next, we need to approve the Title I large purchase request. Derek, can you talk about that?
Yeah, so what you have before you, Board, is Title I, our Title I program, is looking to purchase a software called Elevation. That's also with state funds. The grant only allows you to purchase from 3 specific softwares. This is the software that they want to go with. It's $57,500, and it's for the entire district.
Okay, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the Title I large purchase request for the Elevation software with state funds in the amount of $57,500.
Motion made by Board Member Nielsen. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Board Member Hales. Is there any further discussion on this motion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor indicate with aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Next, we need to approve our salary schedule adjustment. Derek, will you explain that?
Yep, so the original salary schedule that was brought before the board back in June to approve with the budget had our drivers advertised at $19 an hour. Unfortunately, we were going in the wrong direction. We were having additional people leave our district, and it got to the point where we had more openings than we had drivers. And so in discussing it with our transportation department, with our HR department, the business department, we came up with this model. Let's adjust our salary schedule to break it out, and let's change our rate to try to be more comparable to to what our neighboring districts are, because we were not comparable to what the neighboring districts were. So we boosted it up and essentially pegged it to our neighbor to the north. And since we did that, we have filled 4 positions and have 5 or 6 more in the works. So the adjustment has been working, and you approved this tonight. All of these individuals who have been applying or are starting will then take effect and move on to this rate.
All right, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the salary schedule adjustment as discussed in study session.
Motion made by Board Member Partridge, is there a second?
I second.
Second by Board Member Bryson, is there any further discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor indicate with aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Next, we need to approve fiscal year 2023 budget and tax increase. Derek, will you just speak about that briefly?
Yep, so what you have before you is the proposed final budget for fiscal year 2022-2023. With that, this approval, it will move the tax rate to a 007,323. And we'll essentially accept the salary schedules that have been built out and the bond payments for the 2 schools the board has that we've already started on.
All right, is there a motion?
Whoever makes the motion, please, as you say, make the motion to approve and then adopt the final proposed 2022-2023 budget with the tax rate of a 007,323.
That's really hard, Derek, to remember all that.
I should have typed it.
It's sad that Bonnie has a better memory than me.
323.
And we're still going to discuss it.
007,323. That's 0.00. Is there a motion?
I'll refresh, and then I'll make the motion. Okay. Let's see. I'm getting there, Bonnie. I'm getting there. Oh, I got it. Ticking. I move that we approve and adopt the final fiscal budget with the tax rate of 0.00733 percent tax
Hold on,
increase.
you got to change the wording one more time.
Okay.
Go ahead, Derek.
7323.
Okay. And that's what's at the. That's what I was thinking. This is different than what's at the county. Okay. I move that we approve and adopt the final fiscal budget with the tax rate of 0.007,323 tax increase as previously discussed for 2022 through 2023.
Motion made by Board Member Bryson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Board Member Hales. Is there any further discussion on this motion?
I would like to discuss things, but I don't know if everyone else.
Yes.
I mean, I have a couple questions. I also want to make comments. First of all, Derek, so we got about $28 million in ESSER funds, and we have about 15 million. Is it 15 million this year? No, we have a budget of 27 million this year. No, that's the total, but we have about 15 this year. That's above and beyond what we normally use, because our normal federal funds are about $13 million, and we're at 27 or 28, if I remember correctly.
what happens next year when we go back to the baseline of 13? Are we gonna be scrambling for $13 million?
That's a great question, Nate. We actually just had a conversation about this in council. That is correct. When Esther goes away, and we've been having this discussion, which is we've got to start looking for savings across the district, because when Esther goes away, we will be deficit spending.
Okay. I mean, I would like to make a public comment why I'm planning about this, but if you guys want to ask questions first.
No, it's fine, we can ask questions and give our comments.
Okay, okay. Because I feel like I need to explain myself to the taxpayers. I love Utah because I love this truth in taxation hearing. I think it's fantastic. There's a reason why we spend the second least in the nation on education, and it's because of these truth in taxation hearings. It's also, a lot of it's how our taxes are structured. It's kind of a hard concept to understand, but our discretionary spending is going to go up 6.8% this year. I know there's a lot of talk about 33% and all that, and that's true. That's what you guys are facing. But as a district, we are seeing an increase of 6.8% because of various different forces. And that makes raising taxes really hard for school districts. And it makes it a painful process because, as you know, this truth in taxation, they hold your funds at a baseline. It drops when your property valuations go up, and then for any increases, you have to hold a meeting like this. Normally, the City of Provo and the school district, we alternate every other year where we have a truth in taxation meeting, and we bring it up to the baseline. But I think Provo held one 2 years in a row this year, if I remember correctly, because, as all of you know, costs have gone up, and they've gone up a lot. So I think next year the Social Security amount is going to go up about 10%. Inflation's been 9.8%, so the 6.8% that our budget is going to go up while it's super painful, especially since it's all on our local taxpayers, including myself. I wanted to send myself a mean email when I got my taxes. Especially, I'm a businessman and I own real estate, and so you know, I get every reason why people are upset. But I have a lot of history with this city and with this district. I grew up in Provo. I've lived here 40 years. I'm almost 50 years old, so I'm old. And I went to a school called Fair Junior High, and it was, sorry Terry, it was kind of dumb. And I felt, okay, you went there too. I felt like when I went there, it's like Law of the Jungle, and part of that's middle school, but it was not a great experience. And I think I was excited that we were going to have this meeting today at Dixon, because Dixon is not a nice school, but then we came to this place, which is the nicest part of the school, and I'm all, shoot, we would have had a much more dramatic effect if we would hold it in the cafeteria, or especially in the classrooms on the second floor, because those are terrible. And I think we've done a disservice. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of history about our school district. We held consistently, our taxes were the same as Alpine and Evo for a long time. They're all about 0.9%. And in about 1996, so this is a little bit after I left, 1995, all three of the districts in the county dropped their taxes to about 60%. I'm not sure what happened then, I don't know the history. But then shortly after that, Alpine and Evo raised their taxes back up, and we stayed about 20% below. Our taxes were 20% less than them for about 20 years. If we had maintained our taxes and matched them, we would have had about 150 million in today's dollars. If we had matched Evo's, we would have had 130 million if we would have matched Alpine's. You can do a lot of things. You know what we did? We immediately fixed around that time Centennial. But we left Dixon, we left this school, we left Wasatch, and we left Provo High. And I'm not sure the reasons, I wasn't there, but when I was a student, I came to Dixon, I came to Provo High, and I said, these are pretty terrible schools. And we decided that, hey, we're gonna save money, we're gonna kick the can down the road because it'll be better to pay for these things later. And we did that, and then we finally decided, and we finally got our taxes a little bit closer to Alpine in about 2015 when we decided to rebuild some of the schools, which was a good first step. Then we had the problem at Tinfield. We said, okay, we need to fix these schools. And you know what? If we would have fixed them there, we would have saved tens of millions of dollars. I think in the end it's going to be like $80 million. But we didn't. We decided not to do that because we said we'll get a better deal later. And we had COVID. We had that earthquake. The state is getting very serious about picking these schools. And people said, well, maybe if you just would have done it a little bit later. By doing the bond when we did it, our rates are going to save us like $20-something million over the life of that bond. I forget the exact amount. And that's what we discussed about in a meeting a couple of, I think it was like 8 months ago. I remember that meeting, and I said, listen, inflation's coming. You need to borrow money when you have an inflation. And that's why we took it out. So let's see, I have a couple other things that, even with our rate, we are still going to have a lower tax rate than NEBO. We are not the highest tax, and our tax rate is a lot lower than Tooele. Someone mentioned Tooele. Tooele is like 0.9%. Ours is going to be 0.7323. I got it right this time, 7323. Our rate is a lot lower than NEBO, and we are able to spend more on our students. And I have looked over the last 3 or 4 years a lot into how our district spends money compared to other districts. It has been my passion, if I have a passion. I don't have a lot of passions, but I have pulled apart our district's finances, and I would invite anyone to come and talk to me. I love talking about it. I think every year I write a 35-page report that no one reads about our finances. And the one thing, there are areas where we can save a little bit of money. A couple of people mentioned merging with another district. Yes, that would work. We would save, I would think, depending on the size of the district we merge, between $7 and $12 million. But people wouldn't listen to you as much because you don't have enough input because the districts are so big. So it's a trade-off. And as a board member, I don't know. I mean, there's 40 people here tonight. We have 100,000 people in the city. What does the city want to do? I don't hear anything about doing a merger like that until a truth and taxation hearing. So it's hard to feel like there is an impetus in the city to make this move unless the citizens say, hey, we are sick of it and maybe this tax increase will do it. But right now I see that Orem is like wanting to leave Alpine even though it's going to cost them tens of millions more. And hopefully I don't get sued for saying that. But you know, that's a thing. The other area, and I know some people in the district don't like to hear this, is we do have a lot of staff. We pay them less, but we have more staff. If you look on a per student basis, and that's probably has to do with dual language immersion. But people like dual language immersion, and I don't get a single comment from parents like we need to get rid of DLI. But if you want to save money, then that probably needs to go. And so, as a school board member, you're in a kind of a tough spot. You're like, okay, I don't have any parents who want to get rid of these programs. Am I going to get rid of them because they're going to bring me a little bit of savings? Yeah. I don't know. I'm not going to do it on my own because this is a community school. There needs to be community pressure and not 40 people once every 2 years when we do a truth and taxation hearing. It needs to be sustained where people, the citizens of Provo say, I want to do this. And so I hate this tax increase. When I heard it was going to be, I think for me it's 18%. When I saw it, I'm like, that is nuts, especially since we're only getting 6.8% increase in discretionary revenue. It's incredibly painful, and I'm sorry, and I hate myself, and I'm off the board next year, and I'm going to hate myself even more every year when I pay these taxes. But I am for it because I think that we need to make up for the 20 years we didn't pay our people, and then since we have the ESSER funds drying up, we need to look long and hard as a district on how we're going to make our budgets meet next year, because we may have been lower than our neighbors before, but we're getting awfully close. I think we're only like 0.003 away from Nebo now, and a couple other districts. So our taxes are getting up there. I didn't mind raising taxes when we were in the middle, but when we're in the upper quarter, that's when we really need to start doing things. So that's my reasoning. Sorry I went on for so long. I'm just so passionate about raising everyone's taxes.
Should we just go now? Go ahead, Derek. Derek, I got a question from someone. Why are we approving the budget at the same time we're approving the tax increase? Can you explain that?
So the
Instead
way
of having like a separate vote, does that make sense?
so there is a separate vote going on. So we've done the truth of taxation hearing, which is what we've done.
Not the hearing part, the actual vote.
Yep, which is this after meeting. So this is considered a separate meeting, which is why we closed the old meeting and are now doing this meeting. And it's just procedure. If the board doesn't want to vote, then we approve it tonight.
I think what she's asking is, why aren't we voting just on the budget and then a tax increase? Yeah. Why are they together?
Oh, I've always done it as essentially one where the board adopts the rate and the budget at the same time, because the rate affects the budget. So that's why you include the rate, to say approve the rate along with the budget, because the rate sets the budget.
Okay. So whoever emailed me that question, there's your answer. Do you have anything? No, that's it. All right. I'm in the same boat with a lot of people. I opened up my tax notice and mine was 28.9%, like everyone else. And I sat down with Derek and I said, okay, show me the numbers, what are we doing? And when I finally figured it out that it was going to be a 6.8% overall budget, wasn't crazy. And our historical rates are not out of line. We've been very flat and very even killed for the last 10 years. We're in a hard situation where we've had 2 buildings that should have been taken care of, need to be taken care of now. While I'm on the board, I can't, while I'm over my head, not know that these kids aren't safe in a safe building. So I have to move forward with that. I do understand that this is going to be a burden on those. I hope that you reach out to our business administrator or look on the tax website and see if there's ways that can help you. I appreciate the support of those that know that this is a very difficult decision. I also promise that while I'm still on the board, I will help to look for ways to be more cost effective, as some of you may have said during your talks to us about sharpening our pencils. I'm looking for ways. We're a business as well, and we're not immune to the rising costs as well. And either we have to cut things that would not be popular. We have to figure out what's going to be the best thing in the future. But I promise while I'm on the board to look for ways to make things more cost effective.
I made a few remarks earlier, so I feel like I've said kind of how I feel, but I do just want to quickly make the point that let me illustrate this in one way. My children make fun of me constantly because when I attend their sporting events and they win their games, I always feel sad for the other team. I always feel sad for the losers. And my kids make fun of me constantly. Why can't you be happy for me? I just won. And I said, I know, but that means somebody lost. And I feel like maybe this makes me very unsuited to politics. I don't know, but I also feel like it's something we've lost in politics where where people take a stance and they will stubbornly never ever move from it or listen to the other side. And I want everyone in our audience here to know, and everyone who's watching, I am trying my best to hear both sides of this. I understand and I know, and I personally will feel the same effect that this tax increase will be difficult. And for everyone who came and expressed that tonight to us during our hearing, I appreciate that. And I want you to know that I understand. I also hope you understand the other side of it too, where we're losing teachers. We're losing teachers. We have to have teachers, and we're losing teachers. We have to have safe buildings for our kids, and we don't have those. And so we're faced with a very difficult decision. I am going to vote in favor of the tax increase because we need it. We have worked with our budget. I'm grateful for Derek coming into our district and being very creative. He's done a lot of creative things so far to help us rearrange our budget and help us to take what we have and use it more wisely. And we're not done. Like Melanie said, we're still working on a lot of things, trying to make things more efficient, trying to do better with what we have. But we are at a point where we don't have time. We need teachers. We need teachers now. We need bus drivers now. We don't have our bus routes out yet. This is a smaller kind of side point, but I've had people asking me, why don't I know where my child's getting picked up on the bus and what time? And the reason is we don't have drivers yet, and we're still working on it. And if we don't have them, we have to drastically rearrange something as simple as our bus routes to the point where we may have to pick up children super early in the morning, way earlier than we ever have had to, or stack routes, or do lots of different things. But you can see this is real. This is not something we're doing haphazardly. We're trying to do best with what we have, even when that means we're missing drivers. So I hope that everyone can also understand where we as a board are coming from, where we're proposing this tax increase. We did not take it lightly. We certainly did not do it without a lot of thought and a lot of wrestling, at least for me personally, a lot of wrestling with it. But I am in favor of it, and I will be voting for it today.
You guys have well said many of the thoughts that I have. First of all, I know most of them left here physically. Maybe they're watching online, but I do want to thank everybody who came and spoke to us. I value, and I'm sure my colleagues do as well, I value hearing from you and hearing your perspectives, and I think as a community we all learn better from one another when we understand where each person is coming from. I was a little, I don't know what the word is, saddened by some of the comments made about our school system, and I think that reflects to something that was brought up about how we need to better tell our story. But I would invite anybody who wants to know what's happening in our schools to contact your board member, and we'd be happy to help arrange for you to come and see what's happening in our schools. And I'm giving a report in a minute, and I'm going to talk about something I experienced in our district this week and how it just, it gave me confidence in what's happening in our district. So I will say, to add to some of the things that were said earlier, I've been more involved the last couple of years in following what's happening at the state legislature each session, and one of the key phrases they like to use regarding education is they want us to have more local responsibility, meaning they want us as boards throughout the state to come before the taxpayers like we are doing right now and have us pay from those levies more of our budgets than what we have been, so that it offsets some of what we're getting from the state. So that is what we are doing. That is what the legislature is wanting districts to go to. As a board member, it stinks, and I don't like it. If you don't like that system, I mean, it's the legislators that have set up that system, and so that would be a good conversation to have with those representatives as well. I'll just say I've also really wrestled with the responsibility I have to the taxpayers. That your kids make fun of you for the games and stuff, which I could see myself doing that too. But my kids make fun of me because I'll say, oh, look what I happened to buy today. And they'll say, well, how good of a sale did you find it on? Because that's my thing, is I try to find things on sale and save money. And I'm glad that as a community, we do try to be careful with our money. And I think that's really important. But if we do that to a point, it becomes a detriment to the goals that we have as a community. And our other responsibility, besides to our taxpayers, is to our students and to the teachers that are with our students so much every day. And as hard as it is for all of us to increase taxes, I don't see how we can meet the needs of our system, as Rebecca talked about, with teachers and staff leaving the system with current working conditions. One of the commenters mentioned it's about more than money, and that is very true. But when you have to fill the role of 3 other people because those positions weren't filled, and so you're doing your own job plus all those other jobs, that makes really awful working conditions in our schools. And so we do have to attract enough people that everyone can do their own job and not have that extra burden. And I feel that we do need to move forward with this so that we can meet those needs that we have.
Kind of on the same boat, in the same boat with what everybody else has been saying on the board. I hate this. Like, I hate it. I'm sleep deprived. I'm way too old to have an infant, but I've got one at home, so excuse me. This is my neighborhood where we are. I grew up here. My constituents live here. I was out of town when the tax notices came and got home and looked at mine and was unhappy. We're in a position where we can do it. We'll have to move some things around, but we can do it. I thought about my neighbors. Who don't. And it breaks my heart. I'm a bleeding heart social worker to help. I've struggled with this. I hate numbers, so I call Nate. And he tells me, or I call Derek. I don't see any other way to do this. These kids need a safe place to be. We need teachers. We don't just need teachers. We need good teachers to teach our children. And they have waited a long time. We are structuring something so that we can have a more regular increase so that everybody can see there's more transparency. I agree with everybody who said our communication is not that great. We're working on it. We're working on it. I disagree with the people who think that we're playing games with you. Every meeting I've been to, we try to save money. I'm very pleased with our hiring of Derek a year ago. Every budget meeting, every meeting that has to do with money that I have been in, Derek proposes cuts. And we're all like, you want to get rid of what? You know what kind of emails I'm going to get if we do that? You want to increase the what? If we increase the ratio, people are going to have my head. But he's working on it, we're working on it. I cannot change what happened in the past on the board. I can't change the tax rates, I don't even understand the tax rates. But what I have control over is my vote. The easy thing for me to do would be to vote no and let these guys take the hit. I want to get nice emails, warm and fuzzy emails telling me that everybody loves me because I voted against it, but I can't. We need safe schools for our kids. We need good teachers for our kids. If I had the money to do it, to give, and if it was allowed, which I don't think it would be allowed, I would give the money. I agree that we need to be looking for ways to save more money, but I also agree with other things that have been echoed, particularly when Nate was talking. That means we're going to have to get rid of things that you love. And we need to be, the board, we do need to be willing to do some hard things and to sharpen our pencils, and I think Derek has done a great job of making us sharpen our pencils. But I want to reach out to the public and say, you're going to have to sharpen your pencils too, and we're going to have to give up some things. We're probably going to have a bigger classes, smaller, bigger student-to-teacher ratios. We may have to get rid of the DLI program or whatever else. There's a lot of great things that the district does that I would love to continue to pay for, but if we don't have the appetite for that, then we need to get together. And like Nate said, but there needs to be a sustained call for those things. I hate this. I didn't want this job. If you haven't been watching these meetings, I did not want this job. It is now my job, and I am here. This sucks. I hate this. I don't want to vote for or against this. Actually, I'd love to vote against it, but I won't. I'm not going to leave the others hanging here because I'm scared or because I feel bad. I don't want to raise taxes, but I see no other way to do it. So that's why my vote will be the way it is.
All right. We will call for a vote. All those in favor indicate with aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful. I was here for the hearing, but I'm a single parent. I have to go pick up my son from his karate class. I just want to ask this. I keep hearing, let's sharpen the pencil. This is the school board. This is supposed to be the most educated people, right? Pencils are a thing of 50 years ago. We use computers now. Where's the online? With online schooling, you don't need brick and mortar buildings. You don't need bus drivers. You can be so much more profitable, and you can make the teacher's life way more productive and easy on them. You won't have to deal with bullying. You won't have all the problems that you currently have. But all of that is not addressed. We are going on the assumption that this is the great way of educating our children, and the only way we can get that education is by bleeding the resident from their taxes. During the Depression, my friend, my 99-year-old friend, most of his buddies lost their homes because they couldn't pay the taxes on their fully paid homes. Fully paid, they couldn't pay the taxes. You are increasing the taxes way, higher than the last 15 years, and that's just this year. What's going to happen next year, like somebody else mentioned? What's going to happen to those people? Those are the people that have kids. Are they going to send the kids to school when they can't even feed them? I think we need to restructure. You are going to make an earthquake-proof movie theater. Movie theater are making their fancy recliner chairs. Are people going? No. Why? Because the world has changed. We are doing live streaming. We are not going to the movie theater. We are not remodeling malls because we don't attend the mall. We shop on Amazon. And in the same way, you need to restructure the educational system so it serves better the kids, and it serves better the teachers, and it does not bleed the resident from their money.
Thank you. Bonnie, do you need to get her name? All right. So the vote was 5-1. All right, next we're going to approve the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
Motion made by Board Member Partridge. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Board Member Hales. Is there any further comment on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate with aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's where we do our monthly financials. In the minutes, yeah. So, all right, all those, let's see, was that unanimous? Okay. Let's see, next we will have our board member report by member Jennifer Partridge.
All right, thanks. I'll try to be fast. I know we're all ready to go home. So I just wanted to report this last Friday, I got to go to a meeting for the new teachers in our district. I got to go and observe a meeting for the secondary teachers specifically. And sandwiching the main purpose of the meeting. I loved how our Assistant Superintendent Todd McKee and then later Karen Brock, also from the district, how they talked about focus on relationships. Todd shared how relationships are a lot more important. You have to build those before you can expect rigor, which rigor is also important. We want our kids to be well educated, to learn a lot, but you have to have a relationship with them first. And then Karen at the end said, look in their eyes, make a point. Our secondary teachers often have over 200 total students, but she taught them to look in their eyes, and whatever subject you teach, you're going to be the only math teacher or science teacher, or whatever it might be, that that student has that year. And that's an important thing for that student. And I loved how, just love that focus, that that's what it is about. And that as our teachers start the school year with that in mind, then I think everything else will fall into place. And so I appreciate that, and I hope our district continues to focus on that. And then the last thing I want to share in my role on the Utah School Board Association, I just want to let the board members know, and actually it's important for the public to know too, that the association has been working on standards of what does it mean to be a school board member, what makes a good school board member, and we're finalizing those now and hope to be able to release those later this month, if not next month. And share that not only with board members, but with prospective board members, those who are up for election this year, running for election, and community members. What should community members look for when they are voting on a board member? So be looking for that. And then just a reminder also to our board members to be working on your master board certification so that we can all have that accomplished by the end of November.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. And our superintendent didn't feel well and ended up going home early this evening, so we won't hear his superintendent's report this evening. I just want to say thank you. I appreciate the level of civility that we heard this evening. I appreciate everyone who spoke to the board. I promise you that we're hearing you. We may not have voted the way you wanted us to, but we promise that we are listening. So thank you again for coming this evening. And is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. Thank you again for coming.